And welcome once again, Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan Tumarkin in the house, ready to go. I'll give you the contact information right off the top, as we always put it up on the screen, but why not, right? 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. That is the email address we will use today, and the website disabilityrights.ca is there for you as well. Sivan, I know you got stuff you want to get into right away, but we'll get to 5 common questions asked by people on LTD, long-term disability. That's coming up a little later in the show, but what do you got for us off the top?
John, listen, it's been very, very busy here at the office. And again, I want to remind our viewers that our entire team, comprised of employment lawyers, disability lawyers, insurance lawyers, are ready to help you across Ontario and across BC. And, you know, John, I can tell you that COVID is still with us, as everyone knows. And if you read the papers, hear the news, you will note that more and more people are reporting depression, anxiety. People are breaking down despite the systems that we have in place and the help that's out there. But this is relevant to long-term disability claims. And as a disability lawyer, I speak with people each and every day who are having difficulties, psychological difficulties related to COVID and other types of illnesses as well. And the issues that I typically deal with and the answers that I typically answer are what to do with these insurance companies who are denying long-term disability claims. You know, John, I speak with people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s who have worked for a few years or all their lives, and now they're disabled from working because of an illness or an injury. And many of these individuals are again experiencing significant psychological injuries as a result of the COVID pandemic and everything associated with that. And they apply for long-term disability with the support of their doctors, with the support of their psychotherapists, their psychologists, psychiatrists, and everyone else. And yet these insurance companies are taking the position that these individuals are not disabled or not totally disabled from working. And when I look at the reports from the doctors, when I look at the opinions of these individuals who are treating these people who are calling me, it's as plain as day that they should be approved for long-term disability. And so, you know, people ask me, what's the option here? Do I appeal these denials? Do I walk away? What do I do? So I tell people the first thing you do not do, the number one thing you do not do is back down. You do not let these insurance companies dictate what your rights are. Your rights are enshrined in the laws we have in Canada. Insurance companies are very much aware of that. They are playing the odds. They are playing the odds, John, that most people will walk away from money that is owed to them. They are playing the odds that most people, even if they do put up a fight, that will fizzle out, that they will end up, you know, just breaking down at some point in the process because, of course, remember, these individuals are disabled, right? I mean, they're already in a precarious state. And so what we do, again, each and every day is we speak with these individuals for free, and that's what I tell our viewers. Contact me, contact our team, we'll give you the information you need. The reality is this, that once we get involved, once we tell you you have a case and we get involved and we represent you, we are doing that because we are confident that the insurance company is wrong. And guess what? We actually don't get paid for any of this unless we are correct, unless we are able to force the insurance company to pay you. So that's very important to understand. You're not paying anything up front, not for talking to us, you know, not for having us review your documents, nothing. So there's nothing to lose. Give us a call, contact me, contact my team. We will give you the information you need. I don't care if it's a psychological disability or if it's an illness or if it's some kind of an injury and as a result of that you are disabled. If the insurance company denies your claim because they say that you are not disabled enough from working, you have to reach out. At the very least, we can tell you what your options are, and then you can decide how you want to proceed.
You mentioned in there the word appeal. We don't like that word, but it's still a very attractive route for most people who haven't watched this show, or by the way, listen to our radio shows. They think the appeal might be a good place to start, right?
Absolutely, because they think that appeals are some kind of a formal process. In other words, most people who are denied or cut off long-term disability believe that when the insurance company writes them this letter and it explains why they're not going to get paid, and at the end it says you have a right to appeal, and usually they give you 30 days or so, they think there is a formal process here, that somehow they're appealing to a third party, a neutral and objective party. That is the furthest thing from the truth. You're not appealing to anyone else. You are literally re-asking the exact same group of people, this insurance company that denied you in the first place, to reconsider your request. You know, my colleague and partner, James Fireman, who does the show as well, uses this analogy. You have a child who goes to his parents or her parents and asks, can I have this chocolate bar? And the parents say no. You know what that appeal is? It's not that child going to another adult and asking. It's that child re-asking the same parents if he or she can have that chocolate bar. What do you think the parents are going to say? You know, so again, understand that these appeals are useless. You know, do they ever work? Yes. Can you get hit by lightning? That's a possibility too. Can you win the lottery? Possibility too. The reality is this. What is the option? What is the alternative to an appeal? The legal process. Because once we initiate the legal process against the insurance company, it's a completely different ballgame. Internally within the insurance company, the file gets passed to a different adjuster. Now they have a defense lawyer assigned. And what this means, it means that the insurance company is now bleeding money. Now they have to actually pay a defense lawyer, even if it's somebody in-house. A new adjuster, they have to take your claim seriously once we get involved. And so that motivates them to come to the table and try and resolve your claim. Because they understand that if they don't, they can't simply ignore the case. They can't simply ignore the legal claim that we're bringing. They can end up in front of a judge and not like what they get. And this is the reason why most of these cases never, ever go to court. Because insurance companies, once we start that legal process, understand that it's much better to negotiate with us. And that's how we are able to get the settlements that our clients are entitled to when we start that legal process, but not through appeals.
Part of the ways we reach out here, and you can reach out for the show anytime, both this and the radio shows, help@disabilityrights.ca. That's the email address we use. First one for today, Sivan, comes from Faraz. He says, my friend is a mechanical engineer with fibromyalgia and chronic knee pain. He recently returned to work after being on LTD for over a year and immediately started getting worse. He's on various medications, and his doctors have said that he is not ready to return. When he asked to be placed on LTD again, his request was refused because they say he is no longer disabled from working. What can he do?
Well, you know, John, first of all, kudos to Faraz for writing to us on behalf of his friend. And, you know, many viewers here, it's not for them, this information. They may be just watching for interest's sake, but they may know someone, a colleague, a friend, a family member. So pass on this information. Let them know about us. Let them know about our website, because it contains a lot of this information, and all these episodes are stored there on disabilityrights.ca. But to answer Faraz's question with his friend, this is something that's very common, unfortunately. Now, many people who are in long-term disability do get better, which is the natural way that illnesses and injuries often develop, right? People do get better. The human body heals. The human mind hopefully heals. And so we want to encourage people to try and go back to work. And the way that long-term disability policies are designed is they contain provisions, a provision specifically that's termed a recurrence clause. And what that is it's a safety net mechanism built in. The idea is that if you try to go back to work with your doctor's blessing, I'm going to put that out there, you should only go back to work if your doctor, I think, confirms that you should try to go back. And you do, in fact, try to go back, and your attempt is unsuccessful within a certain period of time, and you have to look at your individual policies to see how much time you have. Typically, it's about 6 months. If you are unable to actually maintain that work attempt, then you should be able to go back on LTD without waiting that initial elimination period, that period of time initially when you apply for LTD and you don't get paid. Now, John, what happens, and what's happening here with Faraz's friend, is that many insurance companies, once people try to go back to work, which is what we want them to do, insurance companies then subsequently, when the person fails at that attempt, say, no, we don't buy it. We think that you haven't tried hard enough, or we don't believe what your doctors are saying, and we think that, you know, you should be you should be back at work, you just haven't tried hard enough. And that's baloney. That's nonsense, especially when the doctors confirm that the person has failed in their attempt to go back to work. And what I tell people at that point, again, contact us. Contact us. As soon as you do, I'm going to ask you to see the denial letter. I want to see what the insurance company wrote you. I'm going to want to see what your doctors have written in support of you being back on disability, and before and prior. And I want to understand your circumstances, because, John, every case is different. There's no one size fits all. But I can tell you this. When people try to go back to work after being on LTD and they fail, and at that point the insurance company refuses to put them back on, most individuals that I have spoken to in those situations have a very good case against the insurance company, because no one can blame the person for being a malingerer. Nobody can blame this person for not trying hard enough because clearly they have. So again, you are not powerless. You have a lot of power. And the power that you have is to stand up for your rights, and we are here to help you do that. So for us, what I would say is, after the show, put me in touch with your friend, and we will speak with him, and we will help him.
I was going to say, Faraz, you got the email address. Obviously, we just read it, but the phone number, just in case, 1-855-821-5900. Let's take a short pause. And, Sivan, when we come back, I know you whittled this down from several, but 5 common questions people ask when they're on LTD. That is on the way in the Disability Law Show, so stick around.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. Severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
And welcome back, Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan Tumarkin. The contact information is always popping up on the screen, but just so you have it, 1-855-821-5900. Help at disabilityrights.ca. Shorten that to just disabilityrights.ca would be the website where you can catch past shows. As Sivan mentioned in the first segment, we got them all logged there, and links to our long-running radio show as well, so check it out. I wanted to get into this, Sivan. That is 5 common questions asked by people on LTD. And number 1, I think you want to clarify part of this before you answer, and that is, do I have to apply for CPP disability, and what happens if I don't? Maybe find out what CPP is first to those who don't know.
Yeah, I mean, most people know about the Canadian Pension Plan, CPP, but there is another section of that called CPPD, CPP Disability. And again, that is a pension from the government in the event that you become disabled. And, I get this question all the time. People telling me, they call me up and they email me and they say, my insurance company, I've been on LTD for a few months or a year or 2 years or whatever. My insurance company says I have to apply for CPP disability. Do I have to do that? What happens if I don't? So let's break this down. Number 1, do you have to apply? No, you don't have to apply, but certain things flow from you applying and certain things flow from you not applying. So first of all, I do recommend to people, if they are in fact disabled, to apply for CPP disability, especially if they are on long-term disability. And the reason is this. There are actually few reasons. First reason is that if you don't apply for CPP disability and your policy requires you to apply, as most policies do, then the insurance company can take the position that you failed to do what's in the policy, you failed to follow a term of the policy to apply, and then what they'll do is they'll estimate how much they think you should be getting from CPP disability, and then they may reduce your monthly LTD payments accordingly by that amount that they've estimated they should be getting from CPPD. Right. Now, some insurance companies, in rare circumstances I have seen, actually cut you off. They may cut you off for failing to apply for CPP disability. They shouldn't, but they may. Why should you apply for CPP disability? Well, first of all, remember that to get CPP disability, you have to have a disability, whether it's psychological, physical, or a combination of both, that is both prolonged and severe. And if your doctors confirm that you have a disability of that magnitude, of that nature, then you should apply for CPP disability. As to whether or not you end up getting approved is a different story, but at least you've tried. Now, if you get CPP disability, then it's not as though you're going to be getting CPP disability payments in addition to the full LTD payments you've been getting. The insurer is entitled to a credit for that amount. So the easiest example, John, is if you're getting $2,000 a month in LTD and you just got approved for CPP disability for $1,000 a month, you're not getting 2 + 1 for $3,000. You're still getting $2,000, except that the insurance company only has to pay you $1,000. So then the question is, well, why do I apply? Well, again, for the reasons I've explained earlier, if you don't apply, the insurer will most likely estimate how much they think you should be getting and then reduce your monthly amounts accordingly. Now, something else to consider. If at some point you get CPP disability, but then you get cut off long-term disability, well, at least you have some income source. At least you have some payments coming in from the government from CPP disability. And not to mention the fact that if you get approved for CPP disability, there's less of an argument for the insurance company to cut you off, if they think you're not disabled, because clearly the government has concurred that you are disabled. So you see, there are more positives and negatives in my view as to why you should be applying for CPP disability if you are also on long-term disability.
Next question asked by people on LTD is this, Sivan: do I have to see the doctor the insurer wants me to go to for an assessment? I'll underline assessment, right?
Yeah, and that's important, that underlying, because again, I get this on a weekly basis from across the country. People telling me I'm on long-term disability, my insurance company, my adjuster says they want me to be seen by one of their doctors or one of their assessors. Yep. It could be for a psychological assessment, for a transferable skills assessment, vocational assessment, whatever the assessment is. If it's for an assessment to assess you, well then under most policies that I have seen, frankly all policies I have seen, you do as a claimant, as an insured, have a contractual obligation to go see one of those doctors that the insurance company is sending you to. They're typically called IMEs, independent medical examination. Yeah. I mean, John, the reality is that, again, in my experience, they're anything but independent. Nonetheless, you do have an obligation to go see them. But I want to stress something here. I do have people who get confused where the insurance company says, oh no, it's not for an assessment, it's for treatments. We want you to go to clinic X or to Dr. Y, and we want you to go and get treatments from them. You have no obligation to go to the doctors and the clinics that their insurance company is telling you to go to for treatments, unless your policy explicitly says you have to do that. And I have not seen any policy out there so far in my career, and I've been doing this for a long time, that obligates you to go see one of their doctors for treatments. So my advice is, whatever the insurance company recommends for you for treatments, run it by your own doctors. If they tell you to go to this clinic for physio, find your own physio clinic. Go to your doctor, your family doctor, for recommendations. I would simply not go to the clinics and doctors that the insurance company is sending you to for treatments, not because they're bad clinics or bad doctors, because I question why the insurance company wants you to go there. Why is that? What's the incentive for the insurance company to tell you to go to these clinics and doctors for treatments? I'm very suspicious. I have seen many cases where people who have gone to those kinds of clinics that have been recommended by the insurance company end up in a difficult situation down the road when the clinic reports back to the insurance company, to the adjuster, that the person is miraculously better when in fact they're not. Yeah. So again, if it's for an assessment, yes, you have to go within reason. You don't have to go to multiple assessments for the same type of an assessment. But if it's for treatments, I would recommend going to your own family doctor and getting recommendations of where to go for those treatments.
It's great. You just answered number 3, and that is, do I have to go there for treatments? But if it is a recommended clinic, a clinic possibly, you've been through before, you can't go. That's fine. They won't, that's okay, right?
You can go to whatever you want to go. You can certainly go to those clinics. And there are caveats to what I'm saying here, which is why we tell, John, to people, this is general information. You need to contact us for specific advice, which we'll be happy to give you for free. I'll give you an extreme example. There are some places in BC and Ontario and other jurisdictions in the country, where there are individuals who don't have access to certain types of treatment providers, to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, I don't know, some kind of other type of a doctor. And the insurance company has or is putting you in touch with such a practitioner that you need treatments from, and they're willing to pay for it. Well, you know what? If it's going to help you, and you think it's going to help you, and you have your doctor's blessing, by all means, go to these doctors. I'm not saying unequivocally never ever go to whoever the insurance company is telling you to go to under any circumstance. I'm just saying it's more preferable, if you have other options of where to get treated, to not go as a first choice to whoever the insurance company is sending you. But if it's the only choice, if you live somewhere where there are like 3 people, in the community, and they can set you up with a doctor that otherwise you wouldn't have access to, well, then I think you do need to take them on that, because your goal is to try and get better. So, it's a process of elimination, John, but again, every case is very, very different.
Question number 4 of 5 of the top 5 questions people ask when they're on LTD is this: do I have to take medications or do treatments prescribed by the insurer's doctor even if my doctor says don't do it?
Unequivocally, no.
Yeah, obviously.
No, absolutely not. What I tell people is follow your own doctor's recommendations. And I have seen this quite frequently, more frequently than I would like to see it, where an individual, especially who's under the care of a psychiatrist or a psychologist, has been following certain treatment regimens and certain prescriptions that they're taking, and they've been working with their own doctors for years. And then suddenly, we have an assessment by an insurance psychiatrist that says, no, you should be taking another prescription. And when that person presents that to their own psychiatrist or psychologist, their own doctor says, no, that's not for you. And so then the insurance company comes back and says, well, if you're not taking what our own doctor told you to take, we're going to end your benefits. They cannot do that. They simply cannot do that. And if they are doing that, you can challenge it. So give me a call if that happened to you, because that's not appropriate. Remember, as much as we are giving legal advice here, John, ultimately, the most important thing here is for people to get better, psychologically, physically, especially now during this whole COVID crisis. It's important for you to follow your doctor's recommendations. And, if the insurance assessor gives you recommendations for treatments which your own doctors agree with, by all means try those, 100%. But make sure you follow your doctor's recommendations first.
5th and final question is this one: do I have to go back to work if my insurance adjuster says, out you go, back to work?
No, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. You do have an obligation to mitigate your damages, your injuries, your losses. What that means in plain speak is that you're not entitled to simply sit on the couch all day and collect LTD without trying to get better. However, if you feel that you are ready to try to go back to work, and you've spoken with whoever's treating you, your family doctor, psychologist, whoever it is that's treating you, chiropractor, and they tell you that in their view, you are ready to try to go back, and you think you're ready, in my view, that should be papered. You should work with your employer, and you should try to go back. But that's very different, John, than people who are not ready to go back, who are being pressured by their adjusters to try and go back before they're ready, which, by the way, can have significant repercussions and set people back significantly with their health and their progress. So if you're in that situation where the adjuster tells you, unless you try to go back to work, I don't care what your doctors are saying, unless you try to go back to work by next month or in 2 months or whatever, we're going to cut you off. If they say that to you, you have to contact me ASAP, and I'll tell you what to do, and we may even need to intervene here to get the insurance company to back off.
Let's take a short break.
They cannot force you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, we'll go to a break. We've got so much more to get through. This one's important. When you're denied LTD to a work-related mental health issue, that is coming up. Stick around for it. Reaching out in the meantime, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. That's our email address. Disability Law Show continues. Stick around.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca.
All right, welcome back. Disability Law Show. Man, this half hour is flying by. Reaching out is help at disabilityrights.ca. That's the website if you want to go to just disabilityrights.ca. You can go there and get more information on how to catch past shows, the TV show and our radio show as well, so you can do that. Let's get to an email. Sivan, this one from Jonathan this time says, my father's 61 and worked for years in the airline industry. He was on short-term disability for back problems and arthritis when he was temporarily laid off due to COVID. He applied for LTD but was denied. The insurance company says the fact that he can't work because of COVID, it's not their problem, even though he was already on disability before COVID hit Canada. What can he do?
John, this is just crazy. But, you know, I have seen these kinds of cases occurring, you know, since COVID came to our shores in Canada, since earlier this year in and around March. You know, and the reality is here that, you know, Jonathan's story, his father's story, is not unique. Insurance companies have been trying to pass the buck. They've been trying to blame COVID. I've even heard of situations where they've told people, don't bother applying for LTD, why don't you apply for the CERB instead, which they cannot do. They can't say that if a person is entitled to LTD under a policy. But again, remember who we're dealing with here. Insurance companies are in the business of making money. And one of the ways they make money is collecting premiums. Another way they make money is not paying. That is the nature of the business. And again, they're banking on people walking away from the money that they're owed. In this case, Jonathan's father, think about this for a second. He was on disability before COVID hit. He then gets temporarily laid off, which raises employment law issues, which of course Lior talks about on the employment show. And you know, we're not going to delve into now, except to say that there is an interplay between employment and LTD. So, you know, we often deal with those issues. But again, his father was on disability before COVID. How can the insurance company possibly deny him LTD if he is still requiring disability, if he's still unable to work as a result of his issues pre-COVID? The answer is that they should not be denying him. And so what Jonathan's father, like many other people, could have done, except that they haven't because they contacted us, John, is appeal that decision, which would have probably landed them nowhere, and they probably would have gone in circles. And his father would probably not be getting paid ever if he continues to appeal. The alternative is this. I want to see the denial letter. If the denial letter says exactly what Jonathan just said, and I reviewed the medical records, and I can ascertain clearly that, in fact, his father was disabled before COVID hit, and that's the reason why he's off on disability and has applied for LTD. And the insurance company blames COVID. We are going to go after the insurance company not only for the LTD payments, but for extra contractual damages, punitive damages, aggravated damages. These are damages to punish the insurance company for bad faith conduct. And insurance companies have in the past been hit in the head by judges who have declared that they have acted unethically, immorally, and in complete breach of their fiduciary obligations under these insurance policies. And remember, insurance companies have a special relationship with insured individuals, right? There is a connection there that is quite sacred. It's a fiduciary relationship. And a situation like this, to me, immediately raises the prospect of the insurance company being on the hook, not just for LTD, but also for those extra contractual damages, which we're going to go after. So, Jonathan, after the show, we'll connect. I'd like to speak with your father, explain everything that your father needs to understand, and then explain to both of you what the options are. But he does have options. He should not appeal. He should not walk away from the benefits that he is owed, especially given the fact that he was disabled before COVID. And that's it. And we'll help him. And then he and you can decide how you want to proceed, but at least you'll be armed with this information.
I know how quick you can answer these, so I'm going to get one more email in here before we wrap for the day, Sivan. This one is from Danielle. Says, "Hi guys, my best friend had a nervous breakdown at work, but wasn't entirely work-related. Due to issues with her boyfriend and her mother's death, she had to go on disability. She applied for LTD and was denied because the insurance company says that her work is to blame and she should go through workers' compensation, but they also rejected her. Is there anything she could do with her insurance company or workers' comp?"
John, we need a full show for this, but I'll try to squeeze it in within 30 seconds. Absolutely not, Daniela. Your best friend should absolutely not have to deal with all of this. She has a valid claim against her LTD insurer. If she was denied workers' compensation, it's because they've recognized that this is not a work-related injury, and she has a claim against the LTD insurer, and we can help her with that.
And we'll leave it there. You know how to reach out from email, Daniela, but now the phone number, 1-855-821-5900. You can go to disabilityrights.ca, the website. And I want to mention before we wrap, mydisabilityquestions.com, a wonderful resource for you to leave your questions there for the team to answer, and they'll get right back to you. Thank you for tuning in and staying with us. We'll catch you next time on the Disability Law Show.